My name is Bill Ward, and I'm your host of the Recovery Mini Summit. It's an indigenous focused summit brought to you by Athabasca Chippewa First Nation and my organization, Billwardlife. We go every month. We run for 2 hour sessions. We've been running with three speakers for the last couple sessions. We've been going since December of 2024. All of the prior episodes are either on the ACFN website for viewing or they're on my Billward Life YouTube channel. So if you want to see past episodes, feel free to go to one of those platforms and hopefully get inspired by somebody's story and take the steps in the right direction to change your life and, walk a path of recovery, walk the red road. So the whole purpose of this event is to help individuals, families, and organizations to better understand addictions and the spiritual malady that drives all addictions. It drives self-destructive behavior, right? Like anyone who's been in recovery a long time that kind of knows, they know that the drink and the drugs is not really the problem. The drugs and the drinking is actually the solution to like deeper issues. Gaber Mate talks a lot about like trauma, right? He thinks trauma is the root of all addictions. I personally don't agree fully with that, although I agree with a lot of it. Sometimes I think a lot of our addictions are based on belief systems, the ideas that we have and what we think is like right and what we think is wrong. And when you really look at like maybe the ideas of what we think is right, what we think is wrong, what's important in life, what should we do, and all these kind of things, a lot of the times as we go to achieve these goals, we actually dishonor our true self. So in a sense, it is a trauma to like the spirit of who we really are. One thing I found through working in recovery with thousands of people is most people have never really been able to be who they're truly meant to be. And so what recovery does, it recovers your spirit, recovers your soul, it recovers the authenticity of who you are. And to me, just not drinking is the very first milestone on this journey of recovery. And the word recovery means the process of getting well from an illness or an injury. And the real injury or illness is a spiritual one in nature. So the solution obviously is a spiritual one also. That's what recovery really is. And you're going to hear that from our speakers today, right? You're going to hear different stories in different ways, but there's going to be some very common aspects to like both the illness and both the solution to it. So if you're new or you've never really heard about recovery or you haven't heard people's stories, try to look for the similarities in today's stories and really look for the similarities in how they got sober and stayed sober. Um, some more purpose-driven literature. I want to help as many individuals, families, and organizations as possible to become more empowered, courageous, and truthful so that they can help themselves and others in the pursuit of personal and family and social harmony. I want to share my life's journey of imperfections, struggles, and challenges in relationships and within myself to show and inspire others that there is another way. The answers lie within us. We just have to want it bad enough and do what is required. And that's a quote of mine. And through my own journey of, dishonoring myself through the belief systems that I was kind of, that were thrust upon me, stepping on the toes of people, not being a very nice human in many respects, and kind of like being misguided and misdirected based on the ideas of the world that I didn't know I had no choice in believing. So when I finally burnt down my life and got cracked open enough to go, holy shit, whose ideas have I been living by anyway? Not really mine. They've all been thrust upon me, and I believed them and took them as my own and just tried to live life like however I was told to by social media, by TV, by school, by, maybe culture even. And so, kind of waking up to that and then helping others kind of going within them and helping them see what's going on within them. Because this recovery thing isn't just put down a drink and a drug. Because if you don't learn how to deal with your shit will always deal with you. And if it deals with you bad enough, you'll pick up again, or Maybe suicide sounds like an option. Like this is a real illness, man, that takes lives, like thousands of lives, man, all the time. Excuse me. So we want to be here to inspire people, you know, talk real talk. Like I know Michelle Voyager, she's the one I deal with at ACFN. And when she sends back the email, when she puts the post up, it's like real talk, raw talk. And I think that's like what I bring to the table. And that's what I needed to hear. I didn't need to hear it's all going to be sunshine, roses, lollipops, and unicorns because it wasn't. And no one was coming to save me either. I had to take responsibility and kind of like save myself in a sense by taking the steps that I needed to do. Maybe some of my learned helplessness kept me in a box and I just wanted to live in self-pity or, whatever it was. But at some point I had to give that up and move forward and take responsibility for my illness and learn about it, right? And since I did that, 10 and a half years later, my life's pretty darn good. And it's good in ways that I could never have expected. And I don't really need to justify my life or my actions or anything to anybody because I live a pretty straight life today and I'm authentic to who I am, and so I don't need to like get sick because of people pleasing or selling my truth for a job or for the money or for the relationship or whatever it might be. So, life's pretty good today, and inspiring people is what I love to do, and talking real talk is what I love to do also, and also keeping an open mind. So as I kind of do what I do in the world, I meet a lot of people and I interact and I talk and I go to different types of meetings and I'm in my culture, and so I'm always around, but at the end of the day, recovery is my focus. And so I meet people and then I ask them to come on this podcast, on this live stream. And most recently, the three people who I've asked to come on, and I'll read out the speaker lineup. From about 12:10 to 12:40 or so, we're going to have William Weiss. He's on the screen right now. He's sitting in another room in the studio, and he's going to share what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. However, it worked for him. And you'll hear the same similarities through all the speakers. Our second speaker is going to be Darlene MJ. I always call her MJ. She's just an amazing Indigenous woman who, I know a lot of her story, and I asked her if she'd come on and share, and she said, yeah, sure. And so she's in studio. William and Darlene are both in studio, and they're going to share their experience on how hard it was to find the place to start getting sober, and then how hard it's been, but how gratifying it's been to like do it and what they've learned along the way. And then third, we're going to have Chase M. Samuels, who's online in Haida Gwaii. So I do work in Haida Gwaii in northern BC, and so I meet these people. And Chase has been using me as a pillar and reaching out to me. And I'm not his sponsor by no means, or I'm just a guy who tries to help. And so he calls me, and we built a bit of a friendship. And he's doing the deal, right? He's looking for. I know in AA they talk about it as selfishness. So he's always on the hunt for this thing that kind of ruins his life, which is his own illness inside. And we'll just describe it as selfishness or spiritual malady. So I help him like look for that in the circumstances of each day or whatever the problem might be in his life. And one of the biggest things that us addicts and alcoholics can do to help us is reach out, right? It's the thing we don't want to do, but it's the thing that we must do. So Chase, after enough beating in his life from addiction, he knows these things. So he'll be our final speaker today from Haida Gwaii. And so I'm really looking for a good day today, talking recovery and getting real. Um, it'll be about 2 hours. We'll go from about 12 o'clock. We got a little bit of a late start, so we might go over just a little bit, but we're going to go till about 2 o'clock. After each speaker, I'm going to open up the floor to questions from the floor or comments or shout outs, whatever you want to do after. Maybe say, hey, great story. You really helped me out. Or, hey, how did you get through this? Or, hey, I've been thinking about recovery, but I'm scared. And, you can ask anything you want to these guys. And part of their recovery is being here and helping you guys. That's part of what our recovery is. So without further ado, William Weiss, speaker number one. I'm William Weiss. I'm always an alcoholic. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. I was able to escape trauma with the help of many people in recovery and begin healing on this journey. I now live in harmony by helping others in their journey of recovery. So I met William probably within the last year. There's a meeting in Calgary called the Muscanawa meeting, and William thinks it's the best meeting in the whole world. And he just promotes the crap out of this meeting. And every time I've gone there, he's there, and he's a spearhead. And he also went to a native treatment center. I'll let him kind of talk about that. But, he just helps all these people in all the ways that he does. And, he works for an organization that helps people. And, he's just one of those guys that you see around and you're like, hey, man, I want to know this guy because he glows, right? There's something about healthy people that you want, and I'm just gonna say that's the humility, right? That humility didn't come just because it's there. It came through a lot of work and it shines through, right? And you'll see that in all our speakers today. So William, I really, really appreciate you coming and kind of, dealing with the technical difficulties and just rolling and accepting things because that's what we're taught to do. But we're all really excited to hear your story, my friend, and so you can unmute and let us have it.
All right, thanks, Bill. I gotta say right off the bat, it is such an absolute pleasure to be here. And like you were saying, like when you meet people that are glowing with recovery and they're such an inspiration to other people in their recovery, that's exactly what I saw when I first met you. I think our first meeting was at the Garnet Block, and I kept hearing about you all over the place, right? But when I went to the Garnet and I heard you speak, I just went, wow, this is definitely, this guy knows the big book, and that's where the program is. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But my name is William Weiss, and I am always an alcoholic. The reason I always introduce myself like that is because I don't even want to think for a fraction of a second that I might not be an alcoholic. I've done enough drinking in my life that I have to convince the obsession in my head that I am always an alcoholic, because if I let it slip even just for a fraction of a second, I will end up dead. I was born in 1966, December 26th, the day after Christmas. I was a premature kid. I was living in a place, it's called Lang Pioneer Village, and there's two reservations right next to it. There's Hiawatha and Curve Lake. It was a real colonial growing up. I came from a normal family back in the 60s. Everybody was drunk. My parents were drunk. My aunts, my uncles were all drunk. My grandparents drank. Everybody drank. So, what Bill was saying is that when you learn this is what life is and this is how you got to be, so this is what you are, is what you believe. And then when you grow up thinking that this is it, that this is what I must follow, that's basically the way I was raised. I started sneaking alcohol because they kept telling, my father especially, he was always like, go make me a two finger or three finger Ryan Coke. And he trained me how to make these drinks with ice. And I mean, I was the bartender. I was always touching beer and making drinks for everybody in the family. And quite often I would sneak drinks myself. I would just drink as much as that they were drinking and I would just pass out, and I was only like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old when I started doing that. But what I noticed about the feeling is that it seemed to fill me with a feeling that I was part of, that I was accepted. And this was the way that everybody is when they become adults. So as a child, I had to sneak about it, but I just went through my teenage years doing everything I could to get more booze. It was really harder to get booze than it was to get marijuana. Marijuana was easy to get back in those days where I was from. Um, like there were so many secrets in my family. And we're only as sick as our secrets. And I was very, very sick because my family had a lot of secrets. It was a secret that I was Ojibwe. It was a secret that my family married into Indigenous life, but they took the Indigenous life away from my mother, from my aunts, from my uncles. It was all a secret. No, we were Scottish, we were white. On my father's side, they were Mohican. His great grandparents, they were cousins, and they were Mohican. Um, but that was all kept secret because in the 60s it was a different time and I was just little. I didn't even know any of this stuff until just in the last 5 years I talked to my oldest aunt. She's in her 80s now and she's been giving me all this information that I never even knew about. And it baffles me just the secrets. I didn't even know I had a sister. We were raised as cousins. And I found out when I was 14 that she was actually my sister. Everybody in Lang Pioneer Village knew she was my sister, and everybody knew that I was her brother. But my sister and me, we just thought we were cousins. Nobody told us. It wasn't until my mother got drunk and she told me when she was drunk. And I was like, what? It was devastating to me. Like, and I was like happy in a way because it's like, wow, I got a sister. And my sister found out when she was 17 because I wasn't allowed to tell her. And she was living with my aunt and uncle, um, and they were drunks too. Like everywhere we went, there was always drinking. There'd be drinking, you know, during the week, everybody worked, but they'd still be drinking after work. But on the weekends, everybody was all over at somebody's house, and it was just a huge party. We used to figure out how we could get them all going at each other and fighting. So we as kids could go out in the ground afterwards. They were rolling around and fighting, and we'd pick up all the change that fell out of their pockets, and we'd head to the booth, we called it. It was a store where you could get candy. So we knew how to work them, like, oh, wow, Uncle Bill, he says he can take you, Uncle Dick. And he's, what? I'll get that bastard. And away they'd go. And then the fight would be on, and then all the money would fall out, and then we'd grab all the money and we'd take off. And if we weren't mixing drinks, we were going to the store. And like, that was the custom. That was just the way it was. And in the 70s, when, I was getting older, all I ever wanted to do was just get with people that were just like me that wanted to drink and wanted to smoke dope. Dope was much easier to get because trying to pay somebody to go to the beer store because it was all LLCBO and whatnot, that was really hard. So we'd always have to pay extra. So marijuana was cheaper. So we all got stoned in high school, like the 70s, man. If you remember the 70s, then you weren't there. Like it was just, I don't even barely remember high school. All I knew is that we were smoking dope, going to class, and we just going through the motions. And it was a party. Things were, back in those days, it was fun, hanging out with friends and just getting high. As I got older, I started getting into a lot of trouble with drinking and smoking dope. And, it was starting to come back at me. I was waking up in the drunk tanks. I was getting into trouble with stealing and whatnot so I could feed my habit. Um, I was stealing from anybody and everybody. Like it didn't matter what it took. I didn't care if you were my family. I didn't care if you were my friend. I didn't care if you were anybody. If I could steal it, I'd steal it. And that got me into a lot of trouble. I first tried to sober up. I was 20, I think it was 25. And I stole a bunch of money off of my grandmother. And I started partying. And it was about a day and a half, 2 days later, I woke up passed out on a beach in Tampa, Florida. I couldn't tell you to this day how the hell I got there. I have no idea. I don't know if I was hitchhiking, if I got a bus, or if I was on a plane. I have no idea. But I had a pocket and it was full of American money. I don't know how I even got that switched over or whatever. I don't know what the hell was going on. I ended up staying in Florida. I ended up getting a job working under the table for a fence company. And we just basically pick it up and move it all day long, just building fence. And I was a hard worker. and I would work. And it turns out the owner of the company, he's also an alcoholic, and everybody else that worked for the company, they were all alcoholics. So I would even say to him, if you get a case of beer, just take it off my check. And that's what we did. All of us would take turns buying beer and we'd get drunk every day after work. And eventually that landed me in trouble. I ended up in a hospital. I drank way too much alcohol, way too much, especially American whiskey. That was like really deadly to me and whatever. I ended up in a 28-day program in the hospital. Somehow they took pity on me because I didn't have any health insurance or nothing, but they had this kind of a mandate that they had to help somebody that didn't have insurance once in a while just so they could look good kind of thing. And it was called Breaking Free, and that was in Orlando, Florida. And that was my very first exposure to actually going to an AA meeting. They would put us all in the bus and they'd take us to these places and we'd be in AA meetings. And I never heard of AA. I didn't know anything about AA. And I go to these meetings and there were all these people that were dressed nice and they were smiling and they were happy and they were all looking at me like, are you new? And I said, yeah, I'm new. I've never been here before. Oh, hey. And they put their arms around me and give me a hug and sit me down. Like I literally thought these people were either gay or they were going to try and sell me something. Like that was my experience with the first AA meeting I went to. And then I started just shutting up and listening because I was freaking out. I didn't know what they were going at. But then when they started telling their stories, they were talking about what alcohol did to them. And I was like listening and I'm like, hey, I've done that. Like that sounds like me. I started hearing all about me. And so I started getting it. And I wasn't even working the steps. I was just hanging out with these people. I wasn't working the steps. And I was just going to meetings. And then when I got out of treatment, I managed to have enough money that I was able to get a plane ticket and come back to Canada. So I came back to Peterborough, and that's just outside of Lang Pioneer Village. And I ended up moving in with some friends that I knew from high school, like old friends and everything. And they're still drinking and they're still partying and everything. And I was like, no, I don't drink. I quit drinking now. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, what happened to you in Florida? And I'm like, no, I just decided I can't drink anymore. I managed to hang on end up sober for 6 months. And then I was young. I gave up. I said, you know what? All these people are having so much fun. Why can't I do this? Like, even though they filled me full of a head of AA, I just, the obsession was just, you're too young to quit. You're too young to quit. So I followed my obsession. I wanted to be with everybody again. I didn't have that connection because when I came back to Canada, I didn't go to AA. I went right back to my friends, people I drank with. And sure enough, I ended up getting in trouble again. I ended up breaking into an apartment. I barely remember it, but I broke into an apartment and I was looking for booze. And I got caught. I got arrested. I got charged, and it was B&E. So when I went to court, the judge said, you have some options that you can do before sentencing. I think it was the duty council or whatever they had says you need to get uh, treatment again. Well, I knew what that was because I just went through a 28-day program. So I said, yeah, I'll do it because I did not want to go to jail. I was a small guy, and I was terrified of jail. I thought, fuck, they're just gonna do whatever they want with me in there. So I don't want to go to jail. I ended up going to another treatment center. This one was in Brockville, Ontario. Brock Cottage Tenant House, it was called. It was one house for women, one house for men. And again, I got back into AA and I started meeting new people and making new friends, and everybody was focused on recovery, but I still wasn't working the steps. We had lots of books. All I had to do was memorize the steps, right? So I could say it in order to watch TV and, get weekend passes and stuff like that. And what really blew up is I ended up having sex with the program director. She was gorgeous, and her and I just hooked up, and like, what a great treatment center. Well, that screwed me up because it was a wonderful relationship. And then when we broke up and she basically said, oh, her boss is going to find out that we're together, she just totally wrote me off. And like I was devastated. Like I was actually emotionally a child. And she was filling the void for me. And she became my higher power. And when I lost that, I just fell apart, full out drinking again. And you know what? This is really starting to be a cycle. And what am I doing here? Like, I don't understand it. And every time I drink, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know where I'm going to wake up. And I can't do this. I thought this was normal that you could be an adult and drink every day because that's what my family showed me. But something inside kept telling me this, I can't do this. Um, I managed to get some more money and I said, hell with it. I'm going to Alberta. And I came to Alberta and it's like the streets are paved with gold and there's all these really good paying jobs. So I went through all the safety training to get all my tickets. I ended up getting hired as a safety hand with air traders and stuff. And I got really good at it. I was still drinking because now I'm making even more money. And then I got trained as a breathing apparatus technician. So now I'm making more money and I'm drinking. And then I got into service with fire and rescue, oil field firefighting. And like this is the ultimate, right? I'm able to really do what I want to do because not only am I making really good money, but all of us drink together. And I mean, if we get a call, away we go. Doesn't matter what time of day or night it is. You just that pager goes off. We had pagers back then. Away we went. But I was always drinking heavy. And then there was an explosion that happened when we were out doing fire watch in Pink Mountain. And what happened was they had a bunch of charges that they had set, and one of the explosions had actually been miscalculated. They didn't do it right. They didn't set it up right. Nobody knew it was going to happen. I was 30 meters away, but when the explosion went off, the shock wave sent me over a cliff, and I fell 27 feet, breaking my C7, my L5, my knees. Like I was totally wiped. I don't even remember any of that day. I can't even tell you what I had for breakfast. I woke up in the hospital, University of Alberta Hospital, but I could wiggle my toes. I knew I was going to walk again. And I actually thought I was dead because when I came to, I don't know if anybody's ever been to the U of A, but when I came to, there was all these beautiful, gorgeous nurses standing around me, and I'm all foggy. I thought I was in heaven. And then I just blanked out again. And then when I finally came back to, I was still on the spine board with the neck brace, everything, the whole 9 yards. That was probably the most scariest experience I've ever been in my life was not knowing. Like I couldn't feel anything and I couldn't move. Um, basically WCB kicked in and they did everything they could to take care of me is physically to get me back to work because they don't want me collecting WCB. They never do. Um, So, because I had a drinking problem and I was taking all this medication, I ended up in an organization. It was called Simon House, and this is back in 1999. And back in those days, it was what we call boot camp. But I met a guy, and he knew that big book inside and out. His name was Jim, and he has this Joe and Charlie Big Book study, and this I glued myself to. There's something that told me that I've got to read this book and I've got to study it. I seen him come into the meetings and I seen what his book like and how much he worked in it. And he would just go on and on and on about how much it helps and how much it can help us live a normal life. So I did. I went to 3 big book studies with him in a row and I worked intensely on those steps. We can get the books anywhere. And this is the best part about it is going to the meetings just wasn't working for me, just going to the meetings. Like I had to get into the book. And I got into my step one and I didn't just read it, I studied it. And he helped me understand it and how to actually write out my step one. And he says, okay, start with the very first drink you took. Remember what it felt like. Remember what it did for you and what were the consequences. And then go to the very next time and next time and next time and next time and as much as you possibly can. Like a lot of it's a blur, but I could remember, where I was, what I was doing, people I was hanging out with, and oh yeah, I was 22 when I did that, or oh yeah, I was 18 when I did that, or oh yeah, I was 30 when I did that. And I was able to actually write out a step one. It was pretty long. And then he sat me down and he showed me in the book, and he showed me my pattern of progression of what this disease was doing to me. And I was finally able to convince myself that I do have a disease and I can't drink like everybody else because that's what I really thought I could do. I could control it. Like, how come he can do it and then he can go to work and he can still have a nice car and he can have a house and kids, everything, but I can't. And I finally understood it that I actually have a disease. And once I was able to grasp that and accept that, then I was able to take step two. Now, this is the one I spent the most time on. Um, on 86, 87, and 88 of the book. Like I do this every morning. I do not fail at doing this every morning and every evening. I go through that. And I always harp this to anybody I try to sponsor that try to start with those pages too after you've done step one. And what it did, and what Jim taught me is when you pray, you're asking Creator for help. But when you meditate, you're trying to listen to Creator. And he said the secret is when you're doing your meditation, write everything down that pops into your head. It doesn't matter what it is, just write it down. Okay, oh yeah, I'm thinking about this. I'll write that down. Or thinking about that. I'll write that down. And it just kept doing that and doing that and doing that. And I said, I've got all this journaling here. Like, what's this going to do? And he says, now ask yourself three questions. Is it selfish? Will it hurt anyone? And will it help anyone other than myself? And then just go back and look at everything and scratch out all the stuff that's selfish and it hurts. And will it hurt anyone? And will it help anyone other than myself? You circle it. And I went through everything and like most of it was all wiped out. Like it was just all my committee crap bullshit going on up here. But the one lines that were left, the thoughts that I was having, he says, that's your higher power talking to you. That's your spirit, your inner voice that you never knew how to listen to before. It's been there the whole time. You just never listened to it. And honestly, when I did that, like I'm getting chills now because I had chills going down and up the back of my neck. Like I had hair standing up in the back of my neck. Yeah, believe it or not, I actually had hair at that time. And I got to tell you, once I got a taste of that, once I realized that that's there, I dove right into it. I dove right into it. So when I did my meditation, I would listen as best I could. And then I started getting into culture again. Like all the secrets that my family had about our indigenous people, our indigenous background, or all the members of our family that were indigenous. Um, that's what really helped me the most is when I started going into the sweats. The first one I did was in Thunder Bay, and that was with a suit. He took me to a sweat. And he explained to me that you're going to see and feel and experience things you've never ever done before when you go in there. Just be silent and listen and watch. And it was amazing. It was the most amazing experience I ever had in my life. Honestly, that is the closest I can say that I've ever been the creator in my life. And because I was getting it and I was exposed to that, being the addict, with the wanting it, I wanted it even more. Now I want more and more and more and more and more. And what I learned when I went to step three, made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of Creator as I understood him. I said, I surrender, man. Take me. I'm all yours. This is working. I'm all yours. Do with me whatever you want. And he's basically the voice said, get to work. That's what it said to me. Get to work. And then lo and behold, step four. All right. Now I've got to write down all the crap that I had to unlearn. So I wrote down everything that I could think of that I did wrong to people, that I stole from people, that I hurt people, that I mistreated people. And I had to put all that garbage on paper. And I heard an elder teach me that it's like I carry a backpack and it's full of all this hate and all this misery and all this chaos and hurt. And he says, you got to dump that backpack out. And that brought me to step 5. And I did my step 5, 6, and 7 in a sweat here in Calgary. I went with Sonny and we went as a group at Sunrise Healing Lodge, and like they got a really good relationship. And they got a really good relationship with Muskanawa Family Healing Services that I do as much as I possibly can to help people there in both organizations. And we go to these sweats all the time, and that's where I give my 5, 6, and 7 because you can tell all your stuff in there and just get rid of it. And in the lodge, when I came out, it was like I was weightless, that everything and just so much weight is gone. It was the most amazing experience. Like, I mean, I can't get enough of this. And then I heard a message again when I prayed and I did my meditation. And it said, help others, help others. And so that's basically what I dedicate my life to now is just doing what I can to help people. I'm still making amends. I still have a long step 9 that I still make amends. I just went to court last week. I got 3 months probation, which is really lucky because the Crown wanted to lock me up. And they gave me a certain amount of time to pay the money back that I took. And I'm paying it back. I got to do this. I got to clean up my side of the street. I got to make this right. And the other amends is that people that have passed on, I've got to make this right. I really do. And for me, that is doing everything and anything I possibly can to help other people in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Um, I really love what I do, and like meeting Bill and having the opportunity to do this and share with you has just been absolutely incredible. And Bill, I see the light in you. I see the light in your eyes. And when you share at the meetings and you go through that big book and you emphasize the character defects that we got to work on, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. And for all you people out there, I really hope that you're able to get a book and have someone that can help you go through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and help you understand it, because that's what works. Anyways, I'm done. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Dude, that was amazing. It was amazing, man. I really, really enjoyed that. Um, so you went to a native treatment center, correct?
Yeah, I went to Sunrise Healing Lodge and I'm heavily involved with the alumni there. And that's really where we get our strength and our support is that we got to stay close to each other. We can't do this alone. We went through there together as a group. And, I'm really happy that my group that I went through with, we're all like this. We're very close friends. Like everybody's getting over a year. Um, there's me, Cassandra. She's getting certified as a recovery coach. She works with me at Oxford House Pre-Treatment, where we help people transition from detox into treatment. We give them a safe place to stay. All my friends and everybody that I met in treatment, they have become my family now. So I had to learn the drunken family and learn the recovery family. And this is the greatest. And I spent a lot of time at Muskanawa Family Healing Lodge and getting into culture and understanding as much as I can about my people because I was always such a secret, but now I'm just learning. And I learned so much from the elders. I mean, I just got a huge God shot when I found out that Tony was one of the counselors in Sunrise. She's going to be working with me starting Tuesday at Oxford. And I know you know her.
Yep.
Yeah, Tony Jarvis, and she is amazing, an amazing girl.
How
And
do you see? So a lot of your story was 12-step based, Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
yeah,
You go to native treatment centers, you go to you know, Muscanawa, which is a native place for healing and family services and different things like that. How do you see that the 12 steps align with like the culture?
well, when I read The Red Road to Wellbriety, it's an amazing, amazing book. And the elders knew over 200 years ago, they had the 12 steps. They knew. They called them the liquid mind changers. They knew when they were being introduced to alcohol that this was going to be a problem. So long before AA in 1939, it was already in our culture. And they came out with all the stories and how to help and cope with alcoholism. And it's all in that book, The Red Road to Wellbriety. So it includes our culture along with the 12 steps, and it goes together just like cornflakes and milk. Like I'm telling you, like it's this is 200 years old. But
No, I'm happy that you said that they go to, I've never heard it quite like that, like cornflakes and milk, but I believe that the 12 steps in our culture, they align so perfectly, right?
yeah.
And so, a lot of times like I'm partial to the 12 steps, but I'm also partial to culture. So a lot of the places I go, people are just practicing culture and they're trying to get sober and to whatever path somebody's on, to each their own. But I will say the one thing that I love about the 12 steps that I don't know if culture really has it exactly dialed in. And I know that we never needed it dialed in really for previous to 500 years ago because, the walls of pain and pride and ego and protection, they weren't as thick back then as they have been built over the last 500 years. So why I think that the 12 steps are so effective in so many ways is the fourth step. It allows
Mhm.
you to kind of look at your own part, allows you to deal with fear, allows you to like do certain things through a process that is really, really revealing of like who we really are in these moments. And the other thing I really love about the 12 steps is the amends process. A lot of the amends is not really done on our own. They're done with the help of somebody else who's gotten well versed with those things. And when you look at both of those two steps, it's about communicating, eh? It's about
Yeah,
relationships. And really, the fourth and fifth step are about a relationship with yourself and the world. And we got to really look at that relationship with ourself first. And because sometimes we're blinded by our own pride. We can't really see it on our own. So it's really helpful to have somebody help you, right? And then very similar with the ninth step where you're making amends. And the word amend means to change, doesn't mean say I'm sorry, right? It means to change, right? Amendment comes from amendment in and that means to change. So I just wanted to mention that. When you look at like your journey, what have been the hardest parts? Was it like coming into recovery? Was it like
but
doing the work in recovery? Was it trying to make right in the amends department? Like what's been the hardest part and the most beautiful part?
okay, like the hardest part for me was to unlearn what I was taught. That was so embedded and so ingrained in me that I actually believe this is my morals, these are my values, and this is the way I am. I had to unlearn all of that. And I had to learn just to be decent, be selfless instead of being selfish. And those were all my character defects, is selfishness and self-centeredness and seeking attention, getting approval, because that was the only way I could get it was mixing drinks for my family and running and fetching them beer and oh, good boy and all that stuff. And to me, I didn't have to do that. All I had to do was just be myself and learning how to even discover who I was. And what helped me with that the most was the culture and working the steps. And step six to me, like I'm doing step six every day, and like I got buttons just like everybody else, and there's people that know how to push them, and things that trigger me. Like if you ever drive in Calgary, you know what I'm talking about, right? Your buttons get pushed, and it's pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. It's really not hard. Hard is really difficult to do when you're trying to get around, when you're driving. But throughout my day, I think the most beautiful moment for me um, was actually filling that void that I had inside me with Creator, getting that connection with my higher power and knowing that that's what I needed to fill and that's how I needed to fill it. And the help I've been getting from my culture with the elders and the sweats and the ceremonies and the smudges and living by this simple way, that has been the most beautiful thing in my life. And everything that
Amazing.
it comes to me is what I project. And that's what I project, so it comes back to me. So thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm gonna open the floor to anybody that might have a question for William or a comment or anything like that. So the floor is open to anyone to unmute themselves and say a word or two. Anyone?
Actually, I got a comment. It's Peter, William.
Hi, Peter.
Just want to say that, and I put it in the chat. I think just listening to your story is really inspiring, and it's hard. It's hard for people to acknowledge the wrongs, and to have you seen how you've come around, and as long as we've known each other. Just want to say that I'm really proud of you, and I know you're gonna have a lot more to give. So stay strong, and like I said, I'm very proud of you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Does anyone else have anything for William? Questions, comments?
Hey, William, it's Colleen.
Hey,
Um,
Colleen.
Hi, thanks for sharing your story. There was pieces I didn't know, and I appreciate learning more about the big book and the different steps. Sounds like it would be useful even like for me, and I don't drink. And yeah, so I was able to figure out how to get on the Zoom, so I'm really happy about that, and I'm glad I got to participate as a listener.
Yeah, it's a design for living. It's not just for people that have addiction problems. And it says so right in the book that if everybody actually followed the instructions that we have in that book to be selfless, it works for everyone. And I guess people that don't suffer from addiction already do that, some of them anyway. So thank you
Keyword,
so
some
much,
of them.
Colleen. Yeah, some of them.
But I have taken a number of people that were non-alcoholic through the 12 steps and it helped them. It helped their
Yeah.
lives out, right? Um, anyone else?
Okay.
Okay.
Without
Without
further
further ado,
ado,
I'm gonna get you, William, to mute and camera off, and we will swap you with MJ, with Darlene. And thank you very much. So next, while we get Darlene situated into place, I just wanted to touch base on what I had talked about in regards to the 12 steps aligning with culture and why the fourth and ninth step are so important. Let's say fourth and fifth step and the ninth step. But on the flip side, with culture, like culture has so much like storytelling, and the lessons that we learn in the 12 steps are also all throughout the the storytelling, the vision quests, the Sundance, the sweat lodges. Like all of that is like all incorporated into our culture, right? And sometimes it's just good to be open-minded to see that there's other ways to like look at ourselves, right? And like want to change. And And then the other thing with like, I know with culture, we use a lot of elders, and the elders kind of guide us. And in the 12 steps, we use sponsors and God-centered 12-step pillars. But it's kind of the same thing, right? Anyway, so so yeah. And so nothing negative about 12 steps, nothing negative about culture. There's many paths to recovery. I think one of the things that has really helped me out over the years is I was pretty stringent on a couple different ways to try to get sober and stay sober. But through my Instagram channel, I met like thousands of other people that are trying to stay sober in various different ways. And I was like, yeah, to each their own. And so I've met a lot of those people too, and I've become good friends with people on Instagram from all over America, some in Europe and Ireland and things like that. And we share we share the commonality of addiction or alcoholism, and we share the commonality more so of the solution and how we live our lives today. So it's pretty amazing recovery, man. You just meet people from everywhere, and but also you got to remember that people are still sick, right? So make the acquaintanceship with God because he's the one that she's the one that really is never going to leave you. That's the main consistency of recovery is God's always there, Creator's always there, and that's really who we have to rely on, right? So again, without further ado, we're going to get to our second speaker. Darlene, speaker number two, adopted at the age of 10 into a family that didn't have any Indigenous culture. Learning to love herself through recovery has been one of healing, a new freedom and a new life. She's so grateful for her recovery. So I know Darlene pretty good. We've known each other now for a few years and we've watched each other grow. And, I watched her bounce around and in and out of self and, the struggles of early recovery. But now as she's getting on into a few years, like, third, fourth year, I think coming right up here, or maybe she just took her fourth year. It just seems like things are smoothing out a bit. And I think that's very common, right? And it takes a little while to get this stuff kind of sorted. And she's starting to get it sorted. And like for anyone new who hasn't started their journey, and you hear me say that at her 4 year mark, don't get scared away because all the growth and all the pain that she went through up to this point, it's really taught her. And that's why at the end of her write up here, she wrote she's really grateful for her recovery because he's recovering who she is all through that process. And a lot of it is painful, like William alluded to like let go of all the things that you think you are, right? So anyway, just another beautiful human being here to share her story. So, Darlene, I really appreciate you coming here and taking this. And happy birthday. I was at your birthday meeting on Thursday. So sorry that I forgot for a second. But you know what? Take it away, girl.
Hello, my name is Darlene, and I'm an alcoholic. Um, yeah, so my story is I it starts, you know, I it starts out that, I was with my mom and and at the age of 5 she passed away when I was 5 and that's where it really began for me, I that's where I first remember things, it's kind of on and off through up to the age of 10. My brother and I were put into foster care after my mom passed away because my original family could not take care of us. We were little and, uh, and so, yeah, we were put in foster care at the age of 5 and it was a struggle, I didn't speak any English. And so being put into, a strange home with people I didn't know and then being told I couldn't speak my language was, it was hard. I didn't know these people. I didn't know how to live, and then from that point on, I did what they wanted me to do, right? Like, and I lived in that house till I was about 9 and a half. And yeah, it was hard. I tried to be there, support my little brother. We were in it together, and I was like, trying to be the big sister that I didn't know how to be really, but I was just trying to do my best, right? And then at the age of 9.5, I is when I met my parents that I call my mom and dad today. They met me and my brother, and uh, after meeting us, they decided they would adopt us, and that was at the age of 10, and I was like probably the happiest time I ever remember up to that point, right? I didn't really remember anything happy before then. I just lived in fear, I was just in survival mode because I didn't know anything else, right? And it was the first time I really felt loved. And, I had mom and dad, and along with them came two sisters, two older sisters, and, you know, they just loved me. And that's what I wanted, right? Like I wanted a family, and I had a good mom and dad, right? Like they raised us to the best of their abilities. And um yeah, I went to school, I did sports. I love sports. That was part of who I was. That was something that I grabbed onto, right? And just helped me, get through those teen years. Um, and then I graduated high school, had a little bit of blips through there, I kind of dropped out in grade 12, and it was just trying to figure out who I was at that time, right? And then I finally did go back and I graduated, and you know, through my teenage years, I had opportunities, right? Like I was able to go on these mission trips for teenagers, and it was called Teen Missions, and it was just awesome. I was able to travel the world and do things I had never been able to do, and just be part of, helping others. So for me, that was huge. Like, and then to just, yeah, it was all right up until then, And then when I turned 18, that's when I had my first drink. And I didn't realize how drinking would affect me. That first drink changed my life. My parents always told me don't ever drink, and I never understood that, right? Like, and I had to try it out because they said don't do it, Dar. And and that's when I was definitely an alcoholic. I was a blackout drunk from the get-go. There was no, slowly getting there. I was, I was that person that once I picked up the drink, I couldn't stop. And and I did that for many years. Today, I yeah, so for many years I did that. And so, my parents tried helping me through the years. I went to Bible college, and that didn't do anything for me. I dropped out after 10 months because drinking again got to me. This was me going on a roller coaster of trying to figure out who I am, but that alcohol is so cunning, baffling, and powerful that I didn't know how to stop or even try and control it. There was never any control in there for me. And so at the age of 23, I met my husband, my ex-husband now. But yeah, we met and decided after 4 months that we were in love and we were going to get married. And um, and so yeah, we did. And he's a U.S. military Marine Corps. So I moved to the States, and we were married for about 7 years. And within that time, we had two daughters. And yeah, we lived in the States. And I was away from home. I was in the being the military wife, stay at home mom. and, just trying to live my life. But, always in the background, alcohol was always there, right? And then after 7 years, it didn't work. So I packed up my girls and I came home, came back to Canada, and, started my life over again with two little ones. And I did. I have a family that he still loved me and supported me through it. And they did the best that they could. Um, at the age of 29, I went to college and I got my dental assistant license. My girls are little at the time, and I was a single mom trying to raise two kids, and I went to live on my own after staying with my parents for a year and decided, I was ready and I was going to do this, and and it was still, me trying to do my own thing. And today, yeah, it was just me, in survival mode. I got a career through going to college and it was amazing. I was a single mom for 10 years. I also had a son in that time. So here I'm a single mom of three kids now. And, back here in Alberta, living in a small town, got my career going, but still drinking. And through that time, the drinking got worse and worse. And my family still tried helping me. And I love my family for it because they've always been there to support me. Um, but yeah, alcohol was definitely a grab on for me. It helped me to numb out everything, things that I didn't want to feel or hear or just deal with in life, things that had happened to me that I didn't want to remember. I could just go somewhere because that's what alcohol did for me. It took me out of the real world. I could be someone else that I wasn't when I wasn't drinking, right? Um, but it got so bad that after my family trying to help me and help me with my kids, and they could only do so much, right? And then I had to fall on my face, and I fell on it hard. And that is when I lost my kids to the system, and they took my children. And I am blessed enough to have family that loves me enough to take my kids into their home. And and that was September 2nd, 2011. And I will never forget that day. Um, I always told myself I was never going to be that person, right? I was never going to be that mom. I had seen other people, lose their kids, and I wasn't going to be that person, but I had become that person. And and that was the first time I realized I had a huge problem. I had ended up in the drunk tank that night, came home, and my kids were put into the care of my family. And that set me on a new journey to figuring out who I am now. Um, I knew I had a huge problem at that point. And I told my family, I said, I need to get into treatment. I need help now because if I don't, I'm not going to make it. And that was a breaking point for me, and my family, they were there for me and supported me through it. And they helped me get into my first treatment center. And, my dad, he literally drove me out to BC and dropped me off at the door and said, you can do this, girl. And, you know, and, uh, and I did. I went to treatment. I was there for a year and a half because I knew after drinking for 25 years, or for that amount of time, that I couldn't stop on my own. And 28 days was never going to do it for me. So I went into this treatment center. I did a year and a half there. And that's where I first learned about AA. I really wasn't listening at that time because I wasn't really doing it for the right reasons, right? Like I thought I was. I thought my life was going to be better. I'm going to do it. And I did all of that. And but I wanted to get my kids back, and that was my main priority. And I did everything in my power to do that. Like I did all the courses I needed to do, but at the end, my kids were old enough at that time that I needed to ask them permission, right? And do you want to come back and live with me? And they're like, actually, we're happy where we're at. And for me, that was a hard pill to swallow, but I knew that they were good where they were at, and it was all right. I had to accept it, and as hard as it was, it was all right. I had to learn to actually be me on my own. So, um, yeah, after that, I went to live in Red Deer and I got a job there in being a dental assistant again. After, getting into treatment, went back into living life and, you know, but then not really doing the work. I was just sober. I wasn't living in recovery. I hadn't changed my thinking, or I just thought, life is going to be good. I'm going to get the car, the house, the career. And I did. I was thought I was doing so great. I was 3.5 years sober, and then, my partner passed away. And yeah, to I didn't know how to live through it. My life I thought was so perfect at that time. And I broke and I went back out. I wasn't doing a program. I thought life was good. Um, After 6 months out, it got hard. I was back to the same drinking hard, but it was worse this time, and then I had called my sister and I said, I need help now. I need help right now. And she's like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there in like, I don't know, 2 hours or something. And I'm like, and she took me straight to the hospital, and it was so bad, like the shakes, I had the shakes, and it was like being back to square one, but a little bit worse this time. And she had never seen that, right? Like I come from a family of normies, let's say, and she had never seen it. And she's like, well, what's going on with her? And they're like, she's an alcoholic. And, and so I got through that, and her and her husband helped me. And I went back into treatment again for another 5 months, and went back to the same treatment center. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to be back there, but I went back there anyway. And then I left after 5 months and I went back out drinking again. And that's when I went back out for another 5.5 months, 5.5 years. And yeah, I didn't know how to not feel the pain and the hurt and the grief. My life had changed and I didn't know how to get it back. So after being out there for, 6 years, 6 months prior to coming into recovery this time, I was struggling. I had lost my job. It was through COVID and I wasn't working at this time. And pretty much it was just, living in my addiction every day. And it was drinking from morning till night, and I couldn't stop. And I knew, yeah, 6 months prior, I had broken my leg, and I was so wasted that I don't even know how I broke my leg. And I was like, man, I need to like straighten out my life. Like, and I knew I wanted to straighten out. I just didn't know how to do it because I was so lost, right? Um, but so I kept on drinking for another, 6 months, and still doing my own thing, still, living in self, and um and life got really bad. Um, a month prior to my family had called me in as a missing person. I was out there doing my own thing. I was in another province. No one knew where I was at, and I really hurt the people that love me most. And I didn't realize that at the time because still living in self-hate. And then on my 40, I was 48 at the time. My 48th birthday, actually, I was on the phone with my mom and, still doing my own thing. And my mom's like, well, she could tell something had just happened. We were just talking on the phone, and I had like a stroke in the middle of our conversation, and half of my face kind of just drooped and fell, and she's like, no, what, you need to go to the hospital now. And I was like, still, I'm living in another province. And so I went to the hospital, and they are like, yeah, you basically had a stroke. And I was numb from my shoulder up to half of my head, and I couldn't feel anything. And I really couldn't talk either at that time. And at that point, I had stayed in the hospital for about 5 days, and they were trying to explain to me what was going on. You know, and that's when I decided, I need to get out of here. And my mom, she came and she's like, I'm going to take you home. And I just said, you know what, I just need one day out of the hospital, one day. And she, she's like, okay, I had gotten out of the hospital, and I decided I wanted to try drinking again after this had happened. And I picked up that drink, and I tried drinking, and I couldn't do it. And I said, enough is enough. And that was it. I came back to Alberta with my mom, and I stayed with family for about a month, and went back to treatment again, but I went back to a different treatment center. And I went back to BC, and it was AA based. And I never really understood the AA for, what it was, or, how it worked. I never gave it a chance before. And this time I was like, I went to treatment. No one held my hand when I went there. I got on the plane, got off the plane, and walked through those doors. I was like, okay, I remember standing there at 1 o'clock in the morning, walking into treatment. I'm like, okay, God, like, I'm ready to do this. And I went in there for 50 days and came back out, and that was probably um one of the most amazing times. It was a safe place for me, and it helped me to, just get a little bit of um, self back, and I was just like, okay, well, I can do this time, but, still trying to do my own thing. So for about 6 months after treatment, I went into sober living, and I did uh, that. And they said, well, you got to go and do meetings. So I went and did that. And then I decided, you know what, I'm ready to go do my own thing. I went and got a job, and then I went and got a boyfriend again. And of course, I got a boyfriend that was drinking, and I'm still trying to stay sober, and I'm still trying to work. And I'm like, Darlene, this isn't going to work for you. You got to get yourself out of this because no one else is going to do it for you. And, uh, and I called a friend, and which was not really a friend, but just another bad decision. No, I'm full of bad decisions when I'm out there doing my own thing. Um, so I went out, and I came and I was traveling all over Canada for about 4 months, living in a semi truck with an ex-boyfriend, and things got bad again. And I called my family. I was still sober, but I was struggling, and I knew I needed to get out of that. So yeah, I came back to Calgary, and that's where my sister helped me, my oldest sister, and I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for my family. That I have a family that is here to help me. And she helped me get into sober living again. I got into sober living here, and I lived in there for about a year, and I knew that was a step in the right direction for me. I still needed help, right? Even after being sober for a year, but I wasn't doing a program. So stepping in sobriety, into sober living, they had structure, and I had to go to meetings. And so I came into meetings when I came here in Calgary, and actually I started listening. And that's when it changed for me because I was looking in the room and I was looking around, and I'm like, man, these people have something here. I'll never forget the first few meetings I went to, I just cried because I knew I wanted to change. And as hard as it was to keep walking in that room, I did it because I knew I wanted a better life. I knew I wanted a better connection with my family, with my kids. And I only could do that if I did this program. So AA has been stability in my life for the last few years. And I wouldn't give it up for the world. I have a life today that I never imagined. And I have people in my life that I can talk to that understand me. And that's the amazing part of it is I have to do the work, and I have to do the work for myself. And I have to, get down, and even when I struggle, I still have to, try and do my best to, figure out how I can do this. And today I do it, through this program, through doing the steps, through talking to other people in the program. And it's been amazing. It's hard at times because I still want to do my own thing. But today I give it to God. Today I love myself a little bit more than I did yesterday. And that's what this program has done for me. I don't regret anything. Um, I just do what I need to do, and just, yeah, I'm just trying to be who I am, trying to be a better me today. Life is what I make it, and I'm trusting God, and this program is what's got me through. So thank you.
Where's my mic? Drop. Beautiful. Beautiful, Darlene. I learned a lot about you that I didn't know, and I actually know quite a bit more about you than most people do because we did do a little bit of work together, and you shared vulnerably with me and your sponsor. And I guess one thing that I kind of said earlier that you could attest to was you weren't able to be who you were truly meant to be. And that's a huge reason why you drank, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And what recovery has shown you or taught you is you're recovering who you are. And like, your smile. I remember when you were newish and like compared to then and to compared to now, like you're a totally different person. Like your smile lights up the room, your message is strong. Like you're just an amazing human. I really appreciate you in recovery and to know you in general. Um, when life throws life at you and it gets really hard, what do you do?
Well, my sponsor told me first I need to pray, and I don't always do that, right? Like I'm still stubborn. But, today I have a solution and I don't have to do anything on my own today. And I don't have to be alone. And that's the great thing about being part of this fellowship, like being in this recovery. It's just, yeah, I feel really good
So what do you do? Life,
today.
life, you walk out of here today and life throws shit at you. What do you do?
I lean on what I'm learning in the program, and I keep on learning. Like I don't ever have to go back out there. I pray, which I never did before. I grew up in a Christian family, but it was different. Today, I really do feel like I'm not alone. Um, and people in this program that I lean on that I can talk to, and they understand me because they understand how I think, right? Um, that's what
Do the
helps.
peop do the people that you lean on tell you things that you don't want to hear?
Oh yeah, they do. I need that, right? Because as hard as it is to, hear stuff that you don't want to hear, it makes me think that, they see something that I don't see about myself that I really do need to look at as hard as it is. Because, yeah, that's,
So when they tell you things you don't want to hear, maybe in the previous life you would like resist and like block them or lash back.
oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh,
Wh-
I've done that many times, especially with
how-
the people that you love most, right? Like I did that with my family a lot. I'd be like, okay, I don't really like what you're saying, so I'm not going to talk to you for a while. And I'm like, holy cow, like, I just need to do some self-reflection. Now I can, look at it a little differently. And I'm like, yeah, life is,
So why do you allow people to confront you, like sponsors, pillars, people in your life? What is it now that allows you to not resist it and like take it in and not lash back at them?
um, I listen and I take it in today because I don't want to be stuck in that same cycle of how I was thinking before. When I first came in, uh, I was at a meeting and I had this old timer come up to me and tell me I was selfish, and I was so angry. But at the same time, I was like, well, I had gone home and I was reflecting, like, what does that person see in me that I don't? And I really had to just keep on going to the meetings and keep on doing a lot of self-reflection to say, you know what? I do need to change. I need to change everything. And as hard as that is, I just got to keep on putting one step in front of the other and trying to be a better person today.
I love that you just said, I got to change everything. Sometimes we come into recovery, like no, someone new comes in, it's like, okay, don't really change much, but you got to change everything, right?
Yes.
Uh, because like a good alcoholic or addict, we'll want to just change it all like right now and like But that's, even though we do got to change everything, there's a process to it. And some of the people maybe online listening, like a lot of us had to step away from our families, our environments. We had to make some serious changes or we wouldn't change. And the subconscious, like threads that attach to like our environment or our families, like those are the things that need to kind of change, right? And going back to the same place after being sober a little bit, you'll almost always drink because it's the subconscious threads that need to be cut and like rebuilt in a sense, right? And did you make some of those types of changes?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, when I first lost my kids, I knew I couldn't stay in that town. You know, that's where all my friends were. You know, that's I was living there for 10 years. Everyone knew who I was, you know, and so yeah, I had to move. You know, it's taken me 11 years to move back to Calgary, you know, to me say, hey, Darlene, you're actually all right to go back, you know. And but yeah, I did have to change everything. And sometimes changing those friends and those situations was some of the hardest things, but also, you know, people come and people go in your life, right? And it's all right. I just keep on going.
I love that. I was talking with a very beautiful friend of mine today about people come and people go, and that's the way it has to be. And for you to say that just warms up my heart. Does anyone have any comments or questions or shout outs for Darlene before we move on to Chase?
Yeah, I'm Jen, and I would just like to say that me and Darlene's been friends for 24 years. From I met her back in the States, and we've lost contact for a little while. I went through hell and high water to find her, and we've always remained friends. And Darlene, you're beautiful inside and out, and I am so proud of you and your recovery.
I love you.
I love you too, girl. Keep it up, and I'm always here for you.
Thanks, Jan.
You're welcome, baby.
Aw. Anyone else have shout out, questions, comments for Dar? Okay. Well, Darlene, I thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming here today and fitting us into your schedule and sharing your message. And, I'm sure I at least will get to see you a lot more because you're right in my wheelhouse. So thank you so much, Dar.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Nice, nice. So lots of similarities with those speakers we've heard so far. And we're going to get right moving on to our next speaker here. A guy I met, I do some work for a treatment center way up north in Prince Rupert. They were gracious enough to invite me and have me be a speaker for a thing up there a number of years ago. And then they took me to Haida Gwaii and I got to meet Gaber Mate over in Haida Gwaii. And then I've been up there again. And the funny thing about Haida Gwaii for me is about 2 months before I went to Haida Gwaii, I had said to a person, I said, I'd like to go to Haida Gwaii one day. And then I looked it up and I was all over the internet checking it out. And I'm like, wow, I'd like to go to Haida Gwaii. And then about 2 months later, Willie from Trinity, hey, would you want to go to Haida Gwaii? And I'm just like, holy shit. And that's kind of how God works, right? Like God works like that. And so I've been graced enough to be there twice and it looks like I'll be going back again. And so I met Chase at Trinity House treatment in Prince Rupert. And we've stayed in touch, and he's really leaned on me as a pillar. And what I love about this man, and he's digging in, man, and he understands that selfish and self-centeredness, and I don't mean that in a negative undertone. A lot of people take that negatively. It's just a thing, right? And he knows it's just a thing, and it's a thing that's in addicts and alcoholics and people in general, but we'll die because of it. He doesn't want that to ruin his life. And eventually, if he lives in it long enough, he'll drink again because he doesn't have the power to not drink if his spiritual conditioning isn't fit. So he constantly reaches out, does inventory, does the things that he needs to do. He bounces online, he does meetings, and I know he does in-person meetings. And he's got a really good partner who's very passionate about recovery too. And so he tries to surround himself around recovery. And I've really grown to love this man, and I'm really happy that he agreed to speak. And the picture that I'm looking at here is him kissing his little baby on the head here. And that's just a testament to what recovery does. So Chase, without further ado, brother, thank you so much, all the way from Haida Gwaii.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, William and Darlene, for sharing your stories. That was very beautiful. Yeah, just such a gift. I really love being in recovery every day, just feeling gratitude about this new way of life that I was blessed with, that really challenges like my old thought patterns and who I thought I was based on, based on my childhood, based on different lies that I would tell myself. So yeah, just a lot of gratitude, because I do feel lifted up, and that's a big part because of Bill and everybody who's shared their stories before me. So thank you. My name is Chase Samuels. I'm from Haida Gwaii. I'm in Prince Rupert right now, and 8 months into recovery, and learning every day, and just really grateful for my past, grateful for what's to come, and yeah, just grateful to still be here. I have one daughter, her name's Ethel, and two sisters. I am Haida, and yeah, growing up for me, I noticed like a lot of lack of control early on when it came to like my temper, and just I would get really, like I had an addictive personality early on. When it came to sugar, video games, different things like that. I wasn't able to like do anything in moderation really when it came down to it. I remember just loading up my cereal with so much sugar, and then playing video games till 4 a.m. So just and that ended up resulting in a lack of structure for me. And it's just really crazy to kind of think about how it started early on and everything kind of spiraled, because that would affect like my experience in school. I was always acting out, and not too sure why, but just always acting out, really restless, and didn't do very well in that environment. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started, because like when I'm doing poorly in school, like I could form all these lies about myself that I'm like not smart, and like kind of like like what's the point kind of attitude. And so I just thought something was kind of wrong with me very early on, and kind of carried that throughout my whole experience in school, and trying to fit in and acting out, being bad or whatever. I thought I was just bad, like getting into trouble. And I remember a lot of previous mindsets of mine were just like, I just didn't really care, or else I thought I didn't. But what was underneath that was a lot of shame and guilt, and just just not feeling good about myself, and always seeking relief. So I kind of hid behind this mask of false confidence for a long time, and I didn't realize that, because I thought that's kind of how I was supposed to be, was confident. And so it was a battle. I was always kind of trying to fit in, using basketball, and just all these things. Like video games was a relief for me. And then eventually, when I was 15, that's when I started drinking, and that was a huge shift for me, because all of a sudden, like all these things that I was lacking, like confidence and being social and just, yeah, it was like, that was kind of like that was my ticket. I felt like, because all of a sudden I'm like being social and I'm able to talk to people without feeling anxious, and yeah, just like that was, yeah, that was a huge turning point in my life. And I thought it was good at the time because of all the, yeah, my childhood and just lack of confidence. I remember just really, really having like a debilitating fear, like around making mistakes, like making mistakes, trying new things, and even just, yeah, social interaction. And so fear is a big part of like my struggle, because yeah, just out of those fears I was able to kind of justify, like, yeah, not doing anything, and being shy and just not speaking up and not, yeah, not being my true self. So, and then all of a sudden I started drinking, and a lot of those fears seemed to go away, or at least for a little while. And so yeah, that was like, that's what kept me sick for a long time. And just, yeah, right from the get-go I was blackout drunk all the time, and being able to justify it because I'm young. And but I wasn't drinking like I wasn't drinking like normal people right from the start. Yeah, I was trying to get drunk, and that's where I believe that's when my confidence would kick in, and I was able to be social. A lot of that was something that I really wanted to be, is social, because I had thought I was shy growing up. And yeah, that just makes me feel a lot of gratitude for where I'm at today, because I'm actually able to have a voice. And I've never talked to in front of anybody until about a month into my treatment experience and in AA. So yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for that. So so yeah, but yeah, alcohol gave me a lot of confidence, freedom, comfort, and relief. But it was only temporary. And once I really got into that cycle, is like once the shameful experiences started to pile up, and like the only way to get rid of that shame temporarily was to continue drinking and go it again. And just being able to, yeah, it was crazy, because each there wasn't a lot of times where I was actually able to remember my nights out and my yeah, and my drinking. So there was a lot of shame there, and just wondering what was wrong with me, and yeah, really just othering myself, because yeah, sometimes, a lot of times I felt like I was the only one drinking the way I did, and the only one that had this allergy before I knew about the allergy. And yeah, but where I come from, that is normalized though. Like, there's a lot of it that goes on, so that's how I justified it. But I was I was definitely like among the worst ones. And so yeah, just being stuck in that cycle of shame. And then also a big one for me was thinking that I had social anxiety. Like, so that was like a big part of the cycle, is thinking that my social anxiety goes away when I'm drinking. But then the reality is the drinking is the reason why I feel that anxiety. So, and that only came to like, I remember also, like, that was big part of my treatment experience, was finding my voice. And just I remember sitting there like thinking, wow, I could actually like articulate like a conversation, and I could, yeah, I could keep a conversation going without trying to cut it off or putting my head down. And I just remember feeling relief that day or whatever. And yeah, just a lot of lies and fears kept me sick for a long time. And then the allergy, like I remember going out, it was always a race to like drink the alcohol fast so that I won't miss out on the alcohol that is left. But then that would lead to blackout, and then just continuing the cycle like that. And then yeah, a lot of guilt and shame in my drinking, and then yeah, it became not fun. So then having a desire to be sober, or else at least get my life somewhat on track, and kind of like finding a job and getting into the gym, that kind of was like temporary like relief to where I like felt a little bit normal. And then also just trying to moderate my drinking over and over by different methods, like cutting out hard alcohol. And I remember even like searching up on Google what's like a good amount of alcohol to consume in a night that won't make you black out. But this was before I knew about the allergies. So little did I know, after the first drink, like that was all out the window, because I always had a plan, especially close to the end of my drinking there, to where like I was gonna have a good night, and I was gonna moderate my drinking. And this was like the ticket to me being normal or whatever. And that went on for years. And it's really insane. That's the insanity, is just continually doing the same thing and expecting different outcomes. So yeah, it took me a while to figure it out. And yeah, it comes back to fear. I always had fear of I had this fear of like where my life was headed, and how I didn't want to put myself in dangerous situations. And when that actually happened, like my rock bottom was I was driving very recklessly, and behind the wheel. And that's just something that I was always afraid of. And I never got my license for a long time because I was partying, and I kind of knew I didn't have control. Yeah, no control over what I did when I was under the influence. So yeah, that what led to that though was I found out about my daughter, and I was able to put down the drink for 18 months. And then but that was without a program. So I became really delusional in that 18 months, because yeah, I thought that I had it beat. I thought that I had it beat. And so throughout that 18 months was kind of always just like a plan on when I would be able to go out again, and like be normal now. Because yeah, I just like how soon we forget the struggles. And yeah, I did drugs too. So throughout that time, I convinced myself that obsession with cocaine had been lifted. And I remember my first night going out after that 18 months, I thought that my obsession with drugs was lifted too. So yeah, that was quite the experience, just to be right back at square one and doing drugs the first night and blacking out and wondering how that could happen, especially with my daughter now. Because yeah, I thought the love for her would prevail over this disease, because I thought it had already done that. But just thinking back to those 18 months that I spent sober, and realizing how selfish and restless I was, and using the gym as kind of an excuse. Well, I go to the gym every day, so how could I be sick? I'm like doing this thing that's supposed to be healthy, but I was using it in really unhealthy ways. Like if I didn't get to go to the gym, I was prone to lashing out at people, and just like if I didn't get my gym time, then like I was miserable, and and that's just what it was. So yeah, just thinking that because the alcohol is not present in my life, then everything should be okay. And I thought it was, and I thought that I'm sober now, so like what else do they want from me, kind of thing. And yeah, that just realizing how sick I still was throughout that 18 months, and then I finally had an opportunity to go back out there, and I jumped at that opportunity, and and so that carried on for about 6 months until December, when my drinking eventually, yeah, my drinking gradually got worse and worse throughout that time, and I was really stuck in self-pity because yeah, I split with the mother of my daughter, and I was just feeling not worthy of a good life because I was capable of hurting people I was supposed to love like that. And yeah, another big fear of mine was not being a present father. And I remember coming up with this action plan with my drug and alcohol counselor that was supposed to keep me sober, and it involved yeah, it's kind of shameful because it involved my daughter and looking after her on the weekends, but just realizing now how I wasn't able to actually be present during those times with her because I was just, yeah, the obsession was still there, and I was just anxious to kind of yeah, it's just the messed up thinking of our disease. I was just anxious to drop her off at her mother's, and then off I went again. And this was on the idea behind that action plan was that I was gonna look after her on the weekend, and that should keep me from drinking. But I just went out on Sunday and Monday, and yeah, the days of the week didn't really matter. And yeah, just really trying to rely on self, and because I think I thought that I wasn't too educated on this disease, and I thought that it was a problem of my own making, so it was a problem that I had to solve on my own. And and like the thought of like, yeah, nobody knows what I'm going through and this and that, like, and yeah, I had a hard time with people like telling me what to do. And I didn't even fully realize that, but anytime someone would tell me what to do, I would normally just do the opposite because I thought in my own head that I knew what was best for me. So I believe I did genuinely want to get sober. I just didn't know how. And this was close to the end of it though, because there was a time in between, like in my early and mid 20s, where I just truly felt like I didn't care, and I was just harming myself. So like, why does everybody else care? And then, but then as time went on, like I started realizing how much people actually look up to me and kind of want what's best for me and care about me. And yeah, I'm affecting a lot more people than I had even been aware of or was willing to look at. Because yeah, it's a disease of self-centeredness. I just thought I was harming myself. I thought that I was I thought that I had the right to drink if I wanted to, but realizing now just how just how horrible my life was back then, just because I wasn't able to be present. Um, so yeah, just a lot of self-harm in those times and unmanageability. Um, but yeah, the my rock bottom night was yeah, I was driving really recklessly through the village, and that was always something that I was really scared of. I'd done that a few times prior, but I hadn't got caught, and that really scared me because around this time I was trying to be sober, like I knew it was genuine. I just didn't know how, and I hadn't let go of the idea that I could on my own self will put the drink down and keep it that way. And so when this night happened, um, I was driving recklessly through the village, and then thankfully people phoned on me, and the cops were waiting for me outside of a buddy's house, and I pulled out of the driveway, and I seen them flick their lights on behind me, and I remember I remember the feeling of like I thought my life was over at that point, so I just kept driving until I got home. I didn't pull over when the cops said put their sirens on behind me, and I crashed into my porch. And yeah, I just remember like yeah, a lot of thoughts of suicide that night. And so this was like a huge like different experience than what I was used to, like when I would hit these rock bottoms or whatever, because there was a lot of rock bottoms. Like I remember I don't even know how many times thinking, well, this is rock bottom, like how could it get any worse than this, but still feeling that shame. But I remember after this experience, like the real rock bottom, and I didn't feel as much shame. I kind of it was weird. I felt hope that day, and I think that's because I truly surrendered that night, and like I gave up like the delusion that I could fix this on my own. So I was actually able to reach out for help and accept help, and because I know like if I'm still operating out of self, like my experience shows me that if I'm just in self, then I could find any excuse not to reach out or not to accept this help. But that's when I really kind of like felt my higher power without even really realizing it. I just was like, yeah, whatever it is, just take me. I felt lifted up that day, and it was almost like I felt relief because I knew that was the time that I was gonna, yeah, I was open, I was open that night. I was open to whatever, whatever ways of healing that wasn't mine. And I had a lot of people reach out to me that day and really lift me up. And my my cousin got me into Trinity House in Prince Rupert there, and I I just felt so much gratitude being able to go into that experience with an open mind and uh, and yeah, because I know that if I was operating on self, I would not want to go to treatment. I would think of a million excuses why I don't have to, like why I could do this, why I could do this on my own. So I just felt really blessed to kind of be opened up and willing to try new ways that weren't mine. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for the Trinity House, and getting me out of my comfort zone and having to taking that leap of faith and having to face these fears kind of head on continually into today. Like I'm always being humbled. Like I remember, like honestly, this is being honest, like out of treatment, I felt good, felt solid, and like, but I'm being humbled pretty much every day. Like self is always uncovering itself, and yeah, I remember just getting out of treatment and feeling a little bit of defects come up, or like jealousy, and getting really scared because I thought I was just going backwards, but realizing now just how, yeah, following the directions in the big book, like reaching out and being honest about how I'm thinking, and just, yeah, just the awareness that I was blessed with through going to treatment. And yeah, I just, even looking back on it today, I really can't believe that I was able to do 90 days in a treatment center, because that was never, yeah, I always knew that I had a problem, but I I never knew I could actually go through with reaching out and getting help and listening to ways that aren't my own. And yeah, just really blessed today to have choices. And yeah, I know this isn't me. Like I remember yeah, I've never spoken, I never thought I had a voice, because I thought I was just a shy person. So I was just content for a long time being a listener and telling myself that, yeah, my story doesn't matter. Like I never thought I could use my story to help people. And so I remember going to treatment and just finding my voice. And yeah, I know if I was still operating out of self, and then I would not be here able to speak to you guys or listen to you guys. So that's just been really amazing to me. And it's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing journey that I'm blessed to be on. Yeah, like just having Bill to be there for me when I'm struggling, and yeah, I like that. Like I still feel pain in these months of recovery that I've been in so far, but I know that pain is a pain of growth. And anytime I'm struggling, I know that it's, or triggered or whatever, I know that it's an opportunity to learn and grow. So that's the big difference. I'm like, that's what's really helped me with a lot of my fears is using them as an opportunity to grow. And yeah, I'm just sort of blessed to be on this journey, really blessed. And yeah, just building healthy relationships based on honesty, because I wasn't able to be honest before, and I'm still learning. So yeah, I just feel really free. A big turning point in my treatment center journey and my recovery journey has been not taking everything on as my own. Like, yeah, I don't have to fix everything all at once. I don't have to know everything right away. So just taking it one day at a time and taking what I need and leaving the rest. And yeah, it's crazy to like see the program working, like um thinking that I have the best of intentions and the best motives, but uncovering the underlying self that's behind those motives, and just feeling that pain and humility in those moments, and coming out of it kind of a little bit more free each time. And that's been the most beautiful part of my journey so far is being relieved of a lot of these resentments that I didn't even know I didn't even know that I had, and but they continue to be uncovered each and every day. And I have like a beautiful network that I'm able to reach out to, and a lot of my buddies, a lot of people that reach out to me that I'm able to be that I'm able to help. I never thought I would be able to help anybody. I just thought I just thought I was doomed an alcoholic life, and there was certain points where I thought I was content with that, because, but yeah, just just a lot of gratitude for being able to have a voice today, and being able to listen without judgment, and without questioning questioning like questioning everything to kind of fit my own ideas. So yeah, I feel blessed to be open, honest, and willing to the best of my abilities, and I'm just really keen to keep learning. So thank you for thank you for the opportunity, Bill.
Yeah. Thanks for your voice, bro, and the help that you do bring to everybody, and coming here and sharing your story for your first time, and the first time of many, I'm sure, my brother. Um, One
Thank
thing that you said that I really loved, and it was recently, just a few minutes ago, you had said, the fear and like the challenge of growing through the fear, right?
you. Yeah,
And you mentioned the word suffering, and I believe there's two kinds of suffering. There's this unremitting suffering of not changing and not being challenged by the fear and succumbing to the fear. And when I say unremitting, I mean that is pain, man.
yeah,
And it's suffering. And that's where depression and anxiety and, suicide come from, right? They're born in that. But then there's the other pain of growth, where you grow through whatever it is. And every part of that is a challenge, and every part of it becomes creator. It's like, what's creator trying to teach me, right? And I believe that that's really where you're at. You're like, nothing's really out of place, because every part of your life is a lesson for you, right?
yeah, yeah,
And like another thing I love that you said was like the cunningness of self, and how like your selfish and self-seeking motives and whatever they may be can be masked by your idea to live with the good intention in life. So
yeah,
many people live with the best of intention, but the motive under it is like woundedness, and it comes and it manifests into like selfish behavior. And I don't mean like that in a negative way. I mean just in like a
yeah,
real way.
yeah,
That's where most suffering comes from, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you look at your journey so far, what's been the hardest part for you?
The hardest part of my journey so far is um a lot of it was kind of, I've been pretty hard on myself when like selfishness and self-centeredness would crop up, and kind of just slipping it. I know I'm like kind of prone to slipping into self-pity in those moments, and feel feeling like I'm going backwards, and yeah, just like being kind to myself, I think has been a challenge.
Hmm. Dude,
Especially when
that's
hurting
one of
others.
the most cunning ones, is like being the victim, the martyr,
Yeah,
poor me. But it's so hard to see, right? It's one of the hardest, let's say, defects or manifestations of health, self to see. And for you to like be able to notice that and know how hard it is to get out of that, because it is. It's one of the hardest ones to identify, and then it's one of the hardest ones to combat. So kudos to you for that, man.
thanks,
How
bro.
about how about navigating recovery single and then navigating recovery in a relationship?
I didn't really navigate it single that much, just in treatment. I think I met my partner 2 days after treatment. But
Okay, well, what's it been like navigating recovery in a relationship?
it's been pretty amazing. Like having a partner who I could actually be myself around, and myself to like, to the best of my knowledge, I'm still kind of finding that out, and having someone that holds space for me to figure it out, and yeah, hold me accountable kind of when I'm yeah, being selfish and questioning my motives, and yeah, just I just I feel the love for sure. So yeah, it's been really new to me, all this stuff, because I wasn't always honest in the past, and yeah, just being able to be challenged every day, um, to be honest, and yeah, having someone who really wants what's best for me, and I truly feel that, and I want what's best for her too.
Woohoo. Okay, let's open the floor. Does anyone have anything for our guest, Chase?
Yes, I do. It's Gary O or Guy Gary.
Bye.
Bye, Gary. Hey, Bill. How you doing, bud? Just,
Good, bro.
just gonna say, yeah, you've been over here a few times. We never seem to ever have time. We haven't had any one-on-one time ever, right? Maybe on one of your future visits, we can sit down and have a coffee together. Yes. Well, I must say, I've never heard of Chase, never knew him. Never met him until he showed up here and in recovery. 8 months ago was when I first became aware of him. He started showing up at our meetings locally. And all I can say is he's waking up wonderfully. And I hope he continues on the path he's on. And I can see him being a really big part, not trying to set him up, of course, but to be a contributor to our local community, because we certainly need like-minded people that are the real deal, that can make a difference and be available and with strength, hope, and experience. And then I'll just quickly add, with all the speakers today, I appreciate being here, and kind of the common thing I've heard in everything with everybody's stories is, the nature of the illness being selfishness and self-centeredness, and it's of emotions and feelings, and not being able to cope with reality. And I like to refer to them as the tools of ism, guilt, shame, and remorse. That's from what I said or did, and having feel anxiety, worry, facing what I said or did, and then justifying, the victimization in the moment of self-pity and resentment. And it always led to getting out of reality by adding alcohol and treating my alcohol with ism, or the ism with alcohol, right? Alcoholism. And now I use spiritual. I treat my ism with spiritual. So I'm very grateful to be sober today. I'm going to go tonight, hopefully sober, but tomorrow I will wake up an alcoholic and a drunk, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing because it works.
Mhm.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Awesome, Gary. Good to hear your voice, bro. Gary's a pillar on Haida Gwaii when it comes to recovery. Thank you. Then we
Yep.
see Buck Yeomans down here in the corner, another pillar in recovery and the Indigenous community, doing what he does in the ceremonial way. And good to see you too, Buck. Does anyone else have anything to share before we shut her down? Okay. I would love to give a shout out to Athabasca Chippewan First Nation for allowing this type of thing to be transmitted to anywhere and everywhere. To approach me to work with them to try to carry this message to their community and then to all communities, not only just communities, but organizations and individuals across Canada. We're streaming live on Facebook on my Billwardlife Facebook channel, the Acfn Facebook channel. It goes on to my Billwardlife YouTube channel, goes on to the Acfn webpage. Um, my main contact over there right now is Michelle Voyager, and I think she's behind that beautiful logo. And I'm wondering if she might want to come on and kind of say a few words before I really pull the pin on this.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Bill. I just want to say welcome and thank you for coming today. Everybody shared such beautiful stories. I know as an administrator, I learn a lot from what you're saying and what you share, and it helps me in my role to help other people in their recovery. And so I just really want to say thank you so much. And for making time on this Saturday, I hope it's beautiful wherever you are and that you have a good rest of your day. Marcicho.
Marcito and some Dene. Anyway, I'm gonna read off my sheet of paper here, and thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for everything you do and your passion to serve and help your community and all people. Adhering to the philosophy of one person, one family, one community at a time. Billwardlife provides customized workshops, speaking engagements, guidance, and resources to the First Nations communities and organizations. Excuse me. Our goal is to educate, inspire, and guide our people to become the best individuals, families, and communities they can. We use proven methods, strategies, and interactive techniques to improve the overall health of individuals, communities, organizations. We work with each community on an individual basis to help identify the issues which will require attention. We identify the strengths of each community and provide guidance to maximize the benefits of these strengths. Our world is constantly changing, and we as First Nations people need to keep our culture strong and not ever forget what makes us so special. We need to ask ourselves the question, what made us relevant in the past and what makes us relevant today? Our culture, our people. We promote change by teaching our young people that they are the future. We give them the tools they need to best represent themselves and their communities and maintain their culture and our beliefs. So that's it. Another edition of Stampede Wrestling. Just kidding. Another edition of Indigenous in Recovery. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to say a quick prayer. We're going to be out here in a second. I will give you the date for the next event quickly here. It will be September 27th, noon to 2. I think I have the 3 speakers lined up already, so we should get that poster going pretty quick. And here, I'll pray. Ai, Victim Agano, Creator, thank you very much for this beautiful day today. Thank you for my life today. Creator, I ask for your guidance and protection, for your love and your clarity of mind. I ask for your willingness to allow each of us to open our minds and try to find another way to look at ourselves a little deeper and find out what might need to be discarded and try to manufacture and sharpen the good parts about ourselves. Creator, I ask that you watch over everybody and their families today and guide each one of us today in a good way towards you. Hi. Thank you, everybody.